So Tim, can you tell us a bit about your background?
Yeah, well, thank you for talking through the pain. I mean, I am probably the only guy to turn a unicorn into an acorn. We did. So just give you a bit of context of Incisive Media, because not many people will know it for sure. We're a specialist B2B information and events business. I started it in '95 through launching a single asset called Investment Week. In fact, I started my business almost at the same time as Sherry, who was speaking before, so we've known each other for years. I floated it on the main market. 5 years later, returned 110 times for my founding investors, tax-free. We took it to 300 million of value over the next 6 years, to a point where in 2006 I was a bit frustrated at the pace we could grow the business, taking it from 0 to 300 million in, what was that, 9 years wasn't bad. So I took it private, backed by Apax, and we then took the business within 7 months from 300 million to well in excess of 1.4 billion in enterprise value, dollars, so it's not real money. Pre-crisis, things were brilliant. So we built the business to 2,500 people, 27 offices globally. We had some of the most successful B2B brands in the world, covering professional services, financial services, and that sort of stuff. And then the shit hit the fan. We actually saw the shit hitting the fan pretty quickly, actually, because we have assets in the group like risk. We published to the mortgage market, so we had mortgage solutions in our portfolio. We had a brand called Credit. And the one joy also was that we owned 5 of the accredited legal newspapers in the US, where if you foreclose on a property, by law you have to advertise 3 times in an accredited newspaper. We had 5 of the 6. So our foreclosure notice revenue went from $12 million run rate to $28 million run rate in a quarter. And preparing for this speech, because you've asked me to hark back, which I hate doing, I did watch The Big Short again this weekend. How did I not see it coming? I mean, really, with all those assets, it was weird. So look, we got very severely hit post-Lehman, pre-Lehman, post-Lehman, because we had 9 times leverage on our balance sheet. A building just opposite here, I had a lot of interaction with, because RBS underwrote 550 million of the US structure and 260 million of the UK structure. So, we ended up having a very, very difficult 2009. We had to sell and carve out the US structure and the US business, and then focus back in on the sort of take private business. And that, again, that was a difficult period, but of course you, as a leader of a business and a founder of a business, you have to try and protect your staff from that noise, whether it's internal noise or external noise.
So what was going through your head when you'd wake up every morning?
What was principally going through my head is that we were incredibly fortunate that we had grown from the ground up some brands that absolutely led their markets. And those brands were market leading, and in any downturn, those market leading brands actually, when you come out of a downturn, there is a flight to quality, and they, to be completely frank, they have a winning position. So I was pretty optimistic that we could come out of the downturn, we could restructure the balance sheet, we could reorganize the business, and we would then be able to take advantage of the headwinds that our competition were facing, because they were certainly less integrated assets. And to be completely frank, the competition were well behind the curve in terms of their digitization of their brands. I mean, we launched our first, it was a crap, but we launched our first website in January 1996. And those are the days where you had to dial in, to information sites through a modem, and it took literally, a minute and a half for each page to download. So there are not many grey people here, but I'm one of them. I remember those days. So we've been learning about digitalization. We've been customer focused through that period. So to answer your question, I knew we had great brands. I knew we had great people. I knew we had to change some of the people through the process, and without doubt, some of the toughest decisions I had to make were to let go founders of the business. Friends, you know, I'm godparent to their children, they're godparent to my children. So friends had to leave the business because we needed to do the right thing. But we came out, we were bank owned for 4 years. Wasn't easy because bank owned look at quarterly covenant tests, they want cash repayment. We had significant amounts of cash on the balance sheet. We had about 28 million of cash sitting on the balance sheet, but we just couldn't do anything with it. I couldn't even buy back debt at a big discount. But we then spent that period very inwardly facing, just beginning that transition that you described earlier. And actually, I think the fact that we were private, we were not in the public markets, we didn't have necessarily the scrutiny of private equity at that time, we could make some pretty significant decisions around that digitization and the transition.
It's really interesting. So one of the things that we were talking about before, to move on to another topic, is this idea of digitization and how you were both, looking up market but you were also really focused on personalizing your business. What do you think the key to sort of your success was? Or was there one heavily weighted for one to the other? Or was it the combination of the two that allowed you to weather?
Look, I think the first thing that we were able to do as a private company was to say internally, don't try and catch falling knives. We used to have, and the point about digitization for a B2B information vendor is that you move your touch points with your customers from a weekly magazine frequency or a monthly magazine frequency to a real-time interaction. So what we had to do, and I've heard other people speak this way, but we had a third of the business who were with the vision, a third of the business who were undecided, and a third of the headcount who frankly just weren't going to budge. And the trick at that time was to move the undecided to move with the positive people, and with respect to absolutely cut a knife through those who wouldn't budge, who were caretakers, who were consistently doing the job that they did the day before. So we had to go through a big transformation, which was tough with people, bearing in mind all the negative press about us, because we had a lot of negative press. So we changed people, but we also said it's okay to see declining revenues in print. In fact, the better, the faster, the better. Let's get there faster. Let's win that race, because if we stop competing with ourselves and we change our workflow, because it is about workflow, change the mindset of an editor who wants to see their byline on a printed page to the mindset of getting it out through an email, pushing that personalized content, changing that mindset, that was what made it really work for us. And of course, at the same time, we discovered that actually we could stop selling to individuals on an exclusive basis, but start getting into enterprises, actually delivering our copy, our content, across multiple device, across multiple platform, and selling much bigger ticket subscriptions. And that's what's really fueled the growth of the business. Now, historically, a print asset, we own Post magazine, which we bought in 2000. It's 172 years old. Post has been serving the insurance market weekly, but people clicked on a list of readers for Post on print, and it got passed on. We only sold one subscription. When you lock that off, we can actually, we know that we can now sell access either through IP or through individual, and we can track through data. If people are abusing the number of passwords and whatever they've got, it's been a significant change for us in being able to upsell our subscription revenue. Our subscription revenues used to be 26% of what we do, they're now 48% of what we do. So in that whole wave as well, we've moved the business to being much more valuable. Whilst it's smaller, it's valuable, more valuable.
So on to brighter pastures. You're now chairman of a phenomenal company, Trustpilot. Can you talk a bit about what you're doing at Trustpilot? You just raised a pretty big, hefty round.
We've raised $125 million to date on Trustpilot, but I have to say that raise was in the summer of 15. It's an amazing company led by an extraordinary entrepreneur, and Danish company. And the beauty about Trustpilot, that I think if you walk down a tube or you look at a London bus or you look at TV, it's in the UK, it's certainly in Copenhagen, it's got this network effect where it's reached that inflection point where our customers are now using the Trustpilot score on their advertising, which has fueled then this virtuous, wonderful, everywhere. And it's an more extraordinary story, of course, because that fuels more people to review, it fuels more customers then to take on the technology. So I joined the business when we were about 90 people in Copenhagen. I joined Series B, so we actually raised, we'd raised 25 million to that point. The business has gone from 90 people to about 600. We're in New York, Chicago, Berlin, Sydney, Copenhagen, London, and it's a fantastic, again, subscription engine with extraordinary metrics. 100+% by value renewal. The people who don't renew with respect go bust. It's a very sticky business. What we haven't got quite yet is that network straight inflection point in the US, because it's a bigger, learning to scale in the US is a very different,
much bigger market.
It's a different gig, and we've had some. Peter's been very open about hiring, and we've had some people issues. We've made some mistakes, but we've been pretty quick in changing folk when they haven't worked out. But it's a really exciting platform.
One last question. You see so many small businesses, growth businesses, and especially in these times of uncertainty, where do you see the white space?
Do you know, the white space, in my view, is always driven by people. People make the difference. And, I didn't know what Trustpilot was when I saw it. I didn't think, oh, here we go, reviews are the next big thing. I just saw this guy with passion, with unbelievable vision. I mean, you talk about, earlier you were talking about, businesses have to look 6 months, 3 months, 6 months ahead. Peter has this vision where he is looking over the horizon. And of course, within the business, then we have short-term goals. But his vision is quite extraordinary. He just wants to make, you and I, he wants us to be able to make the best purchasing decisions. And he passionately believes that Trustpilot is there to enable that, to improve service and to improve our ability of buying right. So, I'm involved in a large number of, sorry, not a large number, I've got investments in a few businesses. Some will never make me money, I know that, because they keep asking me for more. But I'm in one that's really interesting it's called Wejo. It's disrupting the insurance market with connected car data. They're building a data lake of connected car data, frankly, globally, and that's an extraordinarily exciting business. I'm chairman of that. I'm chairman of a business called the Rights Exchange, which is disrupting the way in which it's founded by David Frank and Matthew Frank, who are RDF Media in the TV space, and they are disrupting the way in which rights are sold globally. So they've created a Netflix for rights with a legal back end and a bidding system on it. First in the world to do it for TV rights. So they're different, but the people have that energy, that passion, that verve. I think and that's what motivates me more than anything.